right. Another great question that I have here. I know, again, I read your book, and it's like, man, this is a gold mine, because we really need to unpack all this knowledge that you have. And I know that you're a very successful coach and high-level coach, because you don't coach, regular folks. You focus on CEOs and folks that are really successful in certain steps. But I want to talk to you about adversity. I know you talk about adversity a lot, and you call it a gift. Why is it a gift?
There's so many levels to it, but we'll do the short and the long answer. The short answer is, if it wasn't for adversity spurring us on, we would stay in mediocrity. We would never change. We would never adapt. Two things change our behavior: the pursuit of happiness or the avoidance of pain.
Yeah.
And most people don't even pursue happiness now. So they do just enough to get by, just enough to not be in pain. But that mediocrity, you're not doing as much as you're capable of, but you're not as bad as this other person, so you feel better about it. Adversity is a gift because it forces you to up your game and play at a higher level. It doesn't let you do just the bare minimum. It kicks you in the ass when you're not giving everything that you should be. And most importantly, it knows when you're lying, even if you're not aware of it. It knows that you're not giving everything that you could. And if you're the kind of person who starts realizing what you're capable of, then you will start seeking out adversity, because you know that makes you better, that makes you stronger. Just like lifting a weight. If I use the same weight every single day for a year straight, that's not going to be enough. I have to up it's called resistance training. So we have that mental resistance. We have that resilience. We get stronger. Mm-hmm. We overcome and we adapt. But if we don't demand more from ourselves, we will never change. And that's where adversity helps us. So I talk about micro adversities, these little bitty ones. So the micro adversity for somebody here listening may be not to hit snooze, not to sleep the day away, not to get distracted by a bunch of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with what they really want to do. And it's those little bitty small things. We both love Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
That's why. It's the things that are monumental are actually things that are just incremental. They're small. But it's these small decisions that we choose over time that build the habit, the discipline, the momentum, the gravity, the true impact. And that's something that is sustainable. And you can do it in any arena that you enter if you so choose. But most people get to a certain degree of success or out of a certain amount of mediocrity and say, oh, I've got enough. And that's fine. But if you're listening to us now and you can hear my voice, there's so much more that you could be doing.
Yeah, I love the fact that the way you put it in your book, it's like a bitch slap. Adversity comes in.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it just, it hits you, and the first thing, because it causes your pain, and you very wisely said that people avoid pain more than seek happiness.
Yes.
So when adversity comes, it's painful.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we try to avoid it, but avoiding adversity doesn't allow you to grow. You need adversity to grow. Yes. So for me, in my family, we've had a lot of adversity. We lost a couple children, one to cancer. And so for us, as Catholics, we're used to the word suffering, which is adversity. And you got to manage the suffering. You got to look at it from the positive way. What am I gaining out of this? So for me, when adversity hits me, I'm going, okay, God, this is a test. I know you're ready to graduate me, and I need to pass this test. And you're trying to teach me this new skill or whatever else. And so my goal in the midst of adversity is to figure out what lessons I need to learn to pass my test so that I could get out of adversity and God could graduate me to the next level.
That's exactly it, because that adversity that you have not figured out or that you avoid is not going away.
Right.
God has a way of putting that same problem in front of you over and over again until you learn it. Mm-hmm. And here's the other thing. You have to keep doing it. It's not like I figured it out and now I'm done. No. And if you forget about a lesson, guess what? Adversity comes back and it says, hey, remember me? You don't remember me because you're not acting the right way. And because you're not, I'm going to remind you again. And lots of times, the lesson that you've learned and that you've forgotten about, when it comes back, it hits you even harder because you don't see it coming. So in boxing, right, the punch that knocks us out is the one that we don't see coming.
Yeah.
So keep your hands up. Understand that adversity is a gift because it's trying to teach you. People always say, why does this have to hurt so much? Well, because you wouldn't pay attention if it didn't hurt so much. Adversity gets your attention and pisses you off. And now it says, do I have your attention? Okay, you have to change this. Well, I don't want to. Well, you're going to stay here until you do. How about that?
Yeah.
It's tough love.
Well, I mean, you can't get to the next level until you learn those lessons. I mean, it is the same thing with relationships and business.
Absolutely.
Totally, man. So, guys, I mean, you know, I love the when I was working with the Army, they had this phrase, you know, embrace the suck.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, when people were trying to quit or they were complaining, somebody would yell, "Shut up! Embrace the suck."
That's it.
And it's very the wisdom of that phrase is so obvious. It's like, just deal with it, man. You can't get out. Adversity is there. I mean, you just got to get through it. The sooner you learn your lesson, or the sooner you go through that, the better off you're going to be. And again, for me, adversity is just school of hard knocks, and I got to get through this test. And the beautiful thing is that there's a graduation because you gain a skill. So there's benefit out of the adversity. Absolutely. You're learning things, right?
There's a gift in it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. You know, I've gone through so much that I tell people, you know, pain is my friend. You know, it's just adversity is my friend. I don't repel it. I don't push it away. I understand that it's here to teach me something. So I don't see it as an adversary per se. Right. I see it as okay, I got to embrace the suck. I got to deal with this situation, and I'm going to move on.
It's the price that we have to pay for excellence.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It absolutely is. Everything that you want is on the other side of adversity. So you want that relationship, you want that house, you want that car, you want that emotion. Embrace the adversity to get there.
Wow. Yeah, that is the price of excellence. You guys got to write that down. Somebody tattoo that shit on your arm and
send it to us.
Send us a screenshot of that. I had in my notes, adversity equals opportunity and growth.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing negative about adversity. I think that the perception, just like with pain, we perceive pain as a negative feeling. Not when you're working out. Then you look at pain and go, hey, I'm growing, right?
This is an indication that I'm on the right path. Right?
Exactly.
If you're pumping that 5-pound weight, and it's like, I don't even feel anything. It's like, yeah, because you're not doing anything.
Right.
Your muscle needs this.
Yeah.
Your muscle, we adapt to the stimuli around us. So that's why adversity shows up unannounced without any foretelling. It couldn't care less about what you want. It doesn't give a damn about your feelings. And it doesn't take no for an answer. So if you really want to get stronger, if you really want to get better, you have to do that work. And here's the other part. As I'm speaking right now, adversity is on its way to you. It's en route. So whether you're ready for it or not, it's going to show up. So you have to decide right now, how do I want to show up when I have to face adversity? Because the way that you hold yourself in the face of adversity is an indication of how you will do everything, from the kind of father that you are, the kind of business that you run, the kind of husband that you are, or wife, or whoever you are. That's what you have to understand. And if you don't see that, then you're always going to be stuck in that place where you don't want to do this menial job, but because you haven't faced the harder adversity of saying, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to start my own business? Well, that's going to take a lot of work. Do I want to go to this trade school or college to learn how to do this thing? That's going to take a lot of time, a lot of money. Well, I guess you're just going to be stuck there then. Eventually you get to a place where you're tired of it, you get fed up, and then you say, you know what? Again, what's the classic saying is, the pain of staying the same was less than the pain of having to change. So you get to a point where you're like, I'm just sick of this.
And the key word is pain. You get pain both ways.
That's
what
exactly
kind of pain are you choosing?
Right. Do you want to choose the adversity that makes you stronger, or the adversity that seems a little bit easier at the moment, but in the end, in the long run, is going to essentially make your life mediocre at best?
Yeah. I love that, man. I think that embracing the adversity and looking at it as a gift, like you say in your book, instead of something that you repel or you reject. Adversity is going to teach you lessons. It's going to make you a better person, a better entrepreneur, a better whatever. Like you say, it's going to make you excellent. And so you have to embrace it. So guys, take note of those things. This is you getting a lot of golden nuggets here, and from two people that really are first cousins with adversity.
Indeed.
So, my goodness, man, it's just awesome. People don't talk about adversity because it's so negative.
Right.
They rather ignore it. It's like you say, pain. People avoid pain. People try to avoid adversity, but it's here. You can't go to the next level without adversity.
You can, and the thing is, I start seeking out adversity now. I start looking for it, because that tells me that's my compass. That's my true north.
So when you say that, you mean you're looking for big challenges. You challenge yourself.
Challenging myself.
And that translates to adversity.
That's exactly it. If you're not seeking that out, because again, adversity is on its way. So you have to decide: am I going to face the adversity that I'm choosing to go in the direction that I want to go to make me better? Or am I going to face the adversity from some other thing in my life? In this life, listen to me. You either choose what you want, or you become the result of somebody else's choice. And that's it. So everybody is waiting around and they play the victim because, I can't control this. Well, there's a lot of stuff in life that we can't control, but what can you control? The direction that you want to go, the adversity that you're willing to face, to understand what's on the other side of that adversity, and then to understand that cycle never ends. It's a hero's journey over and over again. Every cycle, every morning that you get up and don't hit snooze is this hero's journey of, man, I face this hardship. What am I going to do? I don't want to do it. Okay, well then you stay stuck here until you decide what you want to do. And then you level up, you suck it up, you embrace the suck, and you move forward. But it's not just with that, it's also with our emotions, our relationships, our ability to learn, our humility. All these things come together, and that's why, again, what Miguel and I are talking about, these truths at the highest level all dovetail. They all come together. But once you understand it, you'll see it in everything that you do.
Yeah, again, it's a beautiful time with you, and I just got another epiphany. You're talking about you seek adversity, or you seek challenges, and I think that by seeking those, and so I'm going to translate it into something simpler. Like, for instance, if you don't want to have that hard conversation with people, eventually you're going to have that conversation whether you like it or not, and it's not going to be on your terms. Yeah. And so whether it's with your spouse, your boss, or whatever, so you seek that adversity, you go out and look for it or confront it before it confronts you. And again, you're confronted on your terms. Perhaps you thought about it and you prepare. So when adversity hits, you're prepared. Yeah.
And I love that point, because we have to get out in front of adversity. We have to be the one that, it may not be ideal, but if we at least get in front of it, now we can frame it the way that can help us, as opposed to just being caught, again, blindsided by it. And by getting in front of it, it allows us to pull out that thorn quickly, as opposed to waiting for it to just fester, get worse. Now it takes even more effort to pull that thing out. Now it hurts even worse. But if we can try to nip it in the bud early, that gives us the opportunity. And then we get to see the gift without having to pay as huge of a price to get it.
Yeah. When my son was diagnosed with cancer, he was a brain tumor. Well, it was a tumor where the spinal cord ends and the brain begins, and so it was embedded in all the nerves.
Oh wow!
So there was no way they could operate or anything like that. So I wanted to have a very clear answer from the doctors, and it's a way to seeking the adversity. I wanted to know now what to expect, because I wanted to prepare for whatever. So I remember going to Kansas City to, well, I'm not going to mention the fucking hospital, but I was kind of pissed about it. Anyway, so I'm here with my wife with the doctors, and they're telling us, well, you know, your son has this type of cancer, but we want to do radiation, and we want to do chemo, and we want to do this and that. And I said, hold on a second. What are his chances of survival? So I'm trying to get ahead of adversity. You know, I'm trying to, I want to know, because then I would prepare accordingly. And they could not fucking tell me. The guy kept dancing around. And I said, dude, stop. You've seen this shit before. Mm-hmm. What are his chances of survival? And he looked at me and he goes, well, about 20%. And I said, you fucking lying. And then he looked at me and goes, all right, less than 10%. And I said, thank you. Now I know. So we're not going to do chemo. We're not going to do anything like that. Because if you do chemo with a tumor like that, you're just hurting the person. The quality of life is just going to be miserable. You can't do radiation, because he was telling me, well, you know, we could really try to pinpoint it or whatever, but you might hit a nerve, and you might stop breathing or whatever else. And I said, no, we're not. We're just going to give him the best quality of life. Okay. So when we came back home, and actually I had my son there. He was listening to the conversation. Wow. He's 6 years old. They asked me if I want to get him out of the room, and I said, no, he knows. Mm-hmm. He knows he's got a tumor, and he knows what's going on. And they were like freaking out, like, wow, this little 6-year-old boy is playing there with some toys, and he's listening to this. He doesn't care. But hitting adversity on the face or punch him in the mouth allowed me to prepare myself and my family for the journey that we were going to go about. Right. It was 3 months, and so we were ready. We started making plans. Okay, this is what's going to happen. We had a family meeting, and we said, okay, guys, whatever decisions we make as a family, there will be no regrets. Right. You cannot go back and go, we should have done this. I said, decision made, you turn the page, and it's over. Yep. If by any chance we make the wrong decision, we'll adjust. But we're not going to go back and blame anybody. And I think that gave us a lot of confidence in what we were doing, and it gave my children confidence to voice their opinions about things or whatever. So we all decided that we were not going to do an experimental treatments, because that particular type of tumor is inoperable and incurable. It's funny how Ted Kennedy, the senator, had the same tumor that my son had, and I remember hearing on the news, my wife and I were sitting down, and I said, oh, he's got the same tumor that my son Rafael had. And I said, 3 months, he's gone. And they're trying to save this guy and doing all sorts of things. And sure enough, in 3 months, he was gone. Yeah. But again, we had the courage to confront adversity so that we could prepare to what was going to happen. We were ready. So lesson for you guys, don't run away, confront it. If you could start doing some things now to build some of your skills, right, then do it now, because then you'll be better off when adversity arrives.
Yeah, because it'll get here one way or another, and it's not going to go away. Yeah.
In life is full of adversity. That's how we grow.
It is, and if you're in a place where you can actually look at adversity in the face and say, I see you, I'm not afraid of you, you're not going to stop me from doing what I need to do. Mm-hmm. I may have to change some of what I do, but in the end, I'm still getting there.
Yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah, let's do this.
Come on, let's do this, man.
Let's get strong.
Yeah. I remember I'm going to sidetrack. I got into, only time I got my butt kicked, like royally. I was in high school, and this gang was trying to recruit me, and they kept harassing me and all sorts of things. And from recruiting went to a lot of animosity. Mm-hmm. And so 4 or 5 guys would walk around and challenge me and call me names and things like that. And I was just, kind of ignoring them, whatever. But one time I just could not. I was so pissed. And this guy showed up with his buddies, and he called me. Like he goes, I'm going to kick your ass one of these days. And I'm like, what's wrong with right now, man? Yeah. And then he looked puzzled, like, dude, I got my entourage here, we're going to tear you apart. But I was just like so determined, like, I want to get it over right now. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be concerned about anything else. I don't. I don't want to waste more energy thinking about when are they going to kick my ass. So, let's get it done.
Yeah.
I got it done, and boy, I got stitches on my upper lip. It was kind of messy, but I got it done.
And I want you guys to hear what he just said. He got to a point where the pain of not knowing when he was going to get his ass kicked was actually greater than, it was temporary. It sucked at the time, but it was a temporary pain compared to living 24/7 in this fear, this anxiety of when's it going to happen? Are they going to beat up one of my friends? Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? You have to just come to that place of acceptance. There's 5 stages in psychology. They talk about people that, when there's hardship or when there's adversity, they have to go through this cycle. And the very first one is we just act like it's not there. We just deny it. And a lot of people right now are living in denial.
You hope it goes away.
Yeah, exactly. If I just
Yeah.
turn my eye to it, but it's not going to go away, then it's anger, then it's bargaining because you're hoping that you can somehow get it to go away without doing the work. And then eventually you hit depression. And then after the depression, then you hit acceptance. But even within those little cycles that I just talked about, people will have these mini cycles. So they may go into denial and then anger. And then they're tired of being angry, but they don't want to move to the next part, which is trying to accept it. So they go back to denial again. And they will live their entire life in that cycle of denial, anger, denial, anger, denial, anger, bargaining. No, I want to go back to denial because it's easier. But you can let your entire life waste away in front of you if you live like that. So you have to do all these things. And once you're to that place where you can finally accept it, now you can begin to start learning what's the gift, what's the opportunity. If you're facing adversity now, ask yourself, what is this showing me that I never would have seen any other way? What perspective is it making me look at? What is it revealing about myself that I don't like? What's the chink in my armor? What's the weak link here? If you can see it like that, you can learn. More importantly, you can learn so that you don't have to be put in that position anymore. And that's the goal. But it's hard to see that when you're in the middle of it. When you're in the heat of battle, it's really hard to think that far ahead, which is why right now you have to already make a decision about the course of action you want to take, the steps that you're willing to take to get stronger and more resilient so that when you are facing it, you don't try to run away from it. And even if you do try to run away from it for a minute, that's okay. But eventually you have to turn and face it if you want to go anywhere in life. And frankly, it's a horrible existence to live in that place. To live in that place where you don't even want to try anything because you just assume that you'll fail. You don't even want to go talk to that person that you think is attractive because you just assume that they're not going to be interested in you, or you're afraid to go on that job interview or whatever it is. These are life lessons that will serve you more and more if you're willing to really put them into play. And we have all kinds of opportunities. It can be something small, it can be something big, but it's on the way, guys. You better get ready one way or another.
I think that, they're golden nuggets that we could give our audience is that you need to prepare. You could prepare for adversity. You can, like you say, if you want to talk to that one girl and you're all nervous about it, you could prepare yourself to have that conversation. There's always ways to prepare for, things that may happen. And I just think that it starts with you guys, and you have to make that commitment and go, I'm going to be a better person. I need to improve my set of skills. Mm-hmm. And again, when adversity comes in, it's not going to be as harsh. It's not going to be as harsh because you're going to be able to manage it. And that's what successful people do. It's not that CEOs don't have adversity or anything like that, but they have the skills to manage the crisis or whatever else. Yeah. So for me, I'm at this stage of my life, I lost 2 kids, man. I lost my wife almost a couple, 2-3 times. I lost other kids that fell from 30 feet, and they had to evacuate him to Kansas City by helicopter. I've gone through a lot of shit, and I got the skills to go, okay, calm down. Let's focus on. For me, it's I got to have control. So for me, when chaos arrives or adversity arrives, I'm going, okay, stay still. assess the situation,
Mm-hmm.
focus on the solution, not the problem.
That's it.
But I already have the skills to manage the problem. I have the skills to manage, a member who's crying or who's losing it or whatever. I can manage that, or I can manage the doctors. I can forcefully say, hey, this is what I want done. I want to get this done. So I already know those things. I earned those skills before, and so I can manage any crisis. I think, with the help of God, obviously, but God's taught me all these lessons, and I think that I can manage it. So for you guys, start building your skill arsenal and get ready, because adversity is coming.
It is.
It's coming. That was a great point, man. I mean, people don't understand that you grow through adversity, man. That's just, and that's why I love your book, because it calls it a gift, and it's really a gift.
It is, if you're willing to see it.
If you're willing to see it as a gift. If you're willing to see it as a burden, it will be a burden and will crush you.
It will absolutely fucking crush you.
Totally. Yeah. So build those skills, guys. Just like you guys going to the gym, building all those big muscles. You got to build the other skills you need.
That's it.
Because adversity is heavier than your freaking weights.
It is. And it doesn't care if you can't do it or not. It's like, well, I'm here. Figure it out.
Yeah. I bitch slap you twice. Anyway. So we're going to move to the next segment. Again, this is my first interview, and I just had some questions, and I'm just going to move on through the questions. So how do you determine your priorities? Like, in one chapter of your book, you talk about it, saying no. You got to be selective.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that another thing is you have to return to simplicity, because people are complicated. They have complicated thoughts, thought processes,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to get back to simple. So how do you determine your priorities?
And that's, in the book I say, if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. And right now, a lot of people want to prioritize everything. They're like, oh, I want to do everything. You can't. Yeah, you can't do everything. So if you only had 3 things to do, what would you want to do? And now that's a very simple way to do it. But what you have to do is, like we were talking about, you have to have a vision or a goal or a desired outcome. And then you have to slowly begin to break those things down into actionable steps. Now that sounds simple, but here's what happens. Everybody thinks that, well, these 3 things have to be my priority. I want to have a great business and have a great family life and keep myself in shape. But I can only do one of those things. No, you can't. You can do all 3 of those things. But of those 3, the most important one probably is the family, because you can figure out other ways to work on your business at home, for example, or you have a gym here. Like, you've removed all the excuses that you could have had. And by removing all the excuses, now you have no other choice other than to begin to execute. So when I think about priorities, I think about, if I can only do one thing today, if I can only lay 1 brick, what would be the most important thing to move the needle? And that's what I focus the most on. Now, for a lot of people, they don't even know what they really want. They have no clue. And because they don't know what they want, they get distracted by this shiny thing over here. And then they go down that rabbit hole for a minute, and then they realize it's going to take more time or effort or money than they want. And then they'll kind of go meander down the path of least resistance, and they go whatever direction the wind blows. But in the end, you have to decide what you really want. You can't let somebody else's idea of what's important. Steve Jobs says, this is your life. Don't try to live someone else's, because that's what's so important. If you truly want to do something, then you have to be very honest with yourself and say, you know what? Money is not the most important thing to me. Family is. Okay. Then what are you going to do to start making that family better? If you don't have a family yet, that's fine. I love the point that you made earlier. If you're a young whoever who's working on something and you're in your early 20s, late 20s, early 30s, whatever, and you say, well, I don't have a family, so the things that I do now don't make that big of a difference. Actually, the actions that you're taking now are impacting who your future family will be.
Exactly, yeah.
Are you going to be in a financial position to be able to take care of them? Are you going to be in a physical condition to be in great shape if you get married? Because sometimes when we get married, we don't always push ourselves as physically as we used to because we're married and we have all this other stuff going. But in the end, you choose what's a priority, not somebody else. And if you don't let somebody, if you are not choosing your own priorities, somebody else will come along and give you some priorities, and they will not be in your best interest.
Yeah. So for me, when I was younger, I had a mentor, and he told me that I need to look at, again, going back to emulating somebody. Look at somebody you look up to, and see what you need to do to get to that point. What are the skills you need to develop? Mm-hmm. Okay. What are your priorities? So the priorities are to go hang out with the boys, or work on this particular skill. So, like you say, you have to make those choices. You have to make the choice. It's your choice. Right. Otherwise, you will be doing somebody else's priorities, or somebody else would put those priorities on you. So, it's either you do it or somebody will do it for you.
That's it. And the thing is, you can't just make the choice once, right?
Right.
We have to choose it every day. We can't choose just to work out once and I'm good. It's like, no, you need to be doing it consistently. The thing is, those habits and the decision happens first. You decide what you want. Then you start looking at what are the skills required, what are the steps needed. And then when you start doing that, then you start realizing, okay, so like you said, I can't go spend a bunch of money and time with the boys when I could be spending time at home working on this other thing to get me where I need to go. Once you've done that, that's when you're going to start facing adversity. But it's a different kind of adversity. There's the adversity of mediocrity, just hanging with the boys, watching the game. And there's nothing wrong with doing that sometimes. But if that's your normal existence, then guess what? You've made the decision one time to try to be excellent, but you haven't made it repeatedly, over and over, every day, in the face of adversity.
Yeah. Focusing on important things. One of the things that I used to hang out on a bar back when I was like illegal, 18 years old. I was amazed about the people hanging out at the bar. It was like a cheer, like, the show Cheers,
yeah,
the bar.
Yeah,
same guys coming in every single day. And, I was young and I loved to shoot pool, and I was learning from the masters of playing pool. And I loved the environment, but I started noticing that we had a lot of regulars at the bar. Mm-hmm. I mean, you talk about mediocrity and all this stuff. And so then I started noticing that people were focusing on the wrong things. They would have arguments about baseball statistics for this particular batting guy or his running statistics. And I would go, wow, that's a lot of knowledge in something that is freaking useless.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah, they made that a priority.
Exactly. So you guys, I know you got, some of you know all the statistics of, football players or baseball players or whatever. What does that do for you? How does that make you money? How does that make you a better person? So when you're looking at priorities, you need to go, okay, what am I doing? Is this making me a better person? Is this going to make me money? Is this going to make me a better husband? Whatever it is, you need to look at those the activities you're doing, and judge them against that.
Agreed.
So it's a good way for you guys to understand your priorities and to prioritize things. So what's useful and what's not. So
that's it.
Yeah, man.
I tell my clients, it's like you have to ask yourself right now, in this moment, is what you're doing getting you closer to those goals or further away? And people live in this fairy tale land where they think, well, if I just choose not to choose, then it's like I'm hitting pause, but that's not it. No. There's no lateral motion. You're either moving closer or further away, period. And if you let that happen over and over again, choosing not to choose is the very definition of anxiety. So you have to choose. You have to take a side. You have to figure out what a priority is for you. And he made a great point about the statistics. To me, that was clearly a horrible use of that person's mental capacity. It doesn't really do a whole lot. And then you're trying to debate somebody else at a bar about it, who's just as just as convinced that they're correct. So that's basically a fool's errand. You're just having a conversation about nothing that you could have been doing a lot more with. You could have gotten more out of taking a walk or taking a nap than sitting there having that conversation.
We've got to watch our environments as well, you know. I know that some folks try to, especially on social media, they think they could improve their lives by doing affirmations. I was listening to a conversation the other day, and you know, it was actually in a clubhouse, and somebody was talking, well, I do my affirmations. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? So if you're mediocre and you say, I'm good, I'm not mediocre, that's just like, poof, it's going to happen. You become an excellent person or a person of excellence. Or the other thing is, like, people go, well, I want to be, I'm going to ask the universe for things, and I'm going to wish some things, and I'm going to become a magnet, and the universe is going to give it back to me. And I think about those things, and I'm going, what are these fucking people talking about? You're not a magnet, first of all. You know, the fucking universe is the stars, the moon, all that stuff that God created, that it's out there. So yes, there is a universe, but this universe, it's not an intelligence that or some sort of something that is going to give you something. It's just the stars are there. They've been there for millions and millions of years or whatever. So, you know, you guys got to watch what you say. You know, you got to pick the person you listen to. And instead of catching, you know, some little phrase or whatever and go, oh, yeah, I'm going to do affirmations. Or I'm going to ask the universe for this. Because I'm a magnet. It's like, to me, it just freaking, I don't know, it's a joke, man. So you got to be more grounded. And again, you got to choose who you listen to. And that would help you. You need a plan, a vision. You need a roadmap on how you're going to get to a place. But by wishing or doing affirmation, this is not going to freaking happen.
No, the law of attraction only works as hard as you do.
Right.
Period.
So you got to put the effort on anything, right?
Repeatedly, yes.
So
over and over.
I think some of these guys have it all wrong. I mean, it annoys the shit out of me when I hear it, you know, and they are very convinced that this is going to happen. That I'm wishing for this. Okay, well, are you doing the work? You know, I wish for a successful business. Mm-hmm. You know what? And I'm freaking here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm out of here at 6 p.m. After I've been successful. Mm-hmm. Because I know what it takes. I know the process.
Yep. It takes time.
It takes time and effort and all sorts of things. But I could wish all day long, laying in bed, or do affirmations. I'm great. My business is going to do great. All day long, it's just not going to happen, you know?
And here's the other thing. The people that are saying these things, even if you use their theory, you have to believe it to your bones that what you're saying is true. Well, guess what? You know how Miguel's going to make his wish come true? To have a great business, a successful business, a multi-million-dollar business? By working his ass off. Yeah. By coming and going every day, knowing that he's doing the work and he's chipping away at the stone, he builds that belief in himself. So now that wish that he had isn't a pipe dream. It's just a timeline now.
Exactly. It's just a matter of time. You know, I have my down days and my up days. And I look back at when I was building the other businesses, and I'm going, okay, I know exactly where I'm at. I'm at the bottom of this shit. I could feel sorry for myself, or I could continue to work and trust the process. Yep. It's a matter of time. If you're putting the work, it's a matter of time.
That's it.
Love the quote you have for about Bruce Lee. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do.
Acta non verba, right?
Holy cow, man. Yeah. It's just, but you know, Bruce Lee was a thinker as well.
Yeah, right now, we talk about all this knowledge is out there, but knowledge that is acquired, that is not utilized, is the equivalent of ignorance. So even if you read this book, how many times do we ask somebody, hey, you know, you read this book? Yeah, I read that. Tell me 2 of your takeaways from it. Oh, it was a great book. Well, so you didn't really, I mean, you read it, but you didn't really internalize it. You didn't write anything down. You didn't start applying that stuff. RTA calls, right? RTA events. Those things are amazing. And I want to run through a brick wall after I hear, if I'm at an event or at a call. But if I don't write anything down, if I don't see how I can apply it, if I don't repeatedly apply it, then it's not going to help me. That's how my business got doubled every 2 years there. It was just like, it just kept growing because I was religiously applying those things. Ed would say something, I'm applying it. Andy would say something, I'm applying it. And again, I didn't care if I looked messy doing it. I didn't care if other people. Here's the thing: everybody thinks it's people are watching you, but nobody's paying attention, guys. Until you get to a certain level of success, nobody is paying attention. And anybody that comes to you and throws a stone at you, or starts talking shit on what you're doing, you have to remember that the loudest boos always come from the cheapest seats. Always. So Miguel and I are not, bashing anybody simply because, one, that's not in our nature, because it doesn't help anybody. But two, we don't have enough time to do that. I don't have enough time to look around to see if this person's grass is greener than mine. I'm too busy trying to do what I can to cultivate mine right now, or help other people with theirs that I truly trust and love and believe in. Outside of that, there's not enough hours in the day to do that other stuff. So I can take that energy and either focus it on the things that I want to happen, or I can focus on other things that are not going to really serve me. And in the end, I just choose to work on the things that are going to help me move forward to help more people in the process.
Yeah, you talk about reading books or listening to podcasts and things like that. People do that. They like to fill themselves, quote unquote, with knowledge, but it's useless knowledge because they're not applying anything. So the way I read a book is, I'll read something and if it hits me, I'll stop. I'm not trying to race anybody. Say, hey, I read more books than you have. I read 5 books. I know people that read a book over the weekend and they go, hey, I read this book over the weekend. And I'm like, wow. I hope you took notes or whatever. What are you going to apply? So for me, I'm a little slow poke on that. I'll read a chapter or whatever or a phrase and it hits home and I'm going to go, okay, how does this apply to me as my business or in my family life and whatever else? And if it does apply, then I'll go execute. It's worth me taking the time to execute. And that's how you move the needle, guys. So there's a lot of great books out there, but it doesn't help you just to read them, you basically glancing over them.
Right.
Because you're not doing anything with it. And all the information that you get on podcasts and things like that. I had a coaching call with a person, and this person in 2 masterminds, reading books like crazy, listening to podcasts, and she goes, what do you advise me? And I said, my advice is you stop doing all this shit. Because you have enough information to execute, but you keep gathering more because of the fear of missing out. And you keep gathering more information, and you're getting paralyzed because you can't execute all these things. There's 20, 30, 40 great ideas you might have in your mind, but you have to start with one, then the next one, then the next one. So for all of you guys that are doing a lot of, masterminds and listening to 3 or 4 podcasts and reading those books, and you think you're getting ahead, you're not. You get ahead when you execute on something.
I would advise everybody to, just like he said, take like a personal development or a podcast fast. And for like 2 weeks, because here's the thing, if I told you, or if I asked you, what's really going on? Like, what do you really need to work on in your business or in your personal life or anything? You probably have an idea. You probably know. I don't have to tell you. But you don't want to work on that thing because it's difficult. That's the adversity. So start saying to yourself, I don't want to read 50 books this year. I want to read 2, but I want to apply 50 things that I learned from that book to everything that I do. We're talking about Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee says, I do not fear the man that knows 10,000 kicks and has done them once. I fear the man that knows 1 kick and he's done it 10,000 times. It's about reps. It's about experience. It's about understanding what it takes, being willing to make that decision and choosing to take action over and over again. That creates momentum, that creates belief, that creates gravity, and that creates success.
Yeah, definitely. I think that gathering all that information, it makes you be indecisive. You can't make a decision. You're confused. Everything's clutter.
Yeah.
And this is a great segue to my next question, Mr. Marcus. What gets men killed?
Oh my goodness!
I love that
Wow.
chapter of your book
Yeah.
about the staff sergeant. So, what gets men killed?
So that chapter, my squad leader, we were preparing to deploy. We were in a shoot house for 24 hours straight. And for those of you that don't know, a shoot house is designed specifically for live ammunition to simulate clearing houses. So we've been doing this for probably about 14 hours at that time. And there was a guy that was getting ready to go through the door. So we call the door the fatal funnel, because if I have a team of guys and we're getting ready to hit that door, and there's one person in the corner of this room that has an AK-47, and I try to hit that door and I pause and hesitate there, it takes one person with that gun to just sort of zigzag anywhere in our general direction, and they will kill every one of us. So the idea is to get through the fatal funnel, kick the door down, and move forward. If you're taking fire, that's fine. The guy behind you will stick his boot in your back, put you down, protect you, and then when it's all said and done, we'll pick you up and we'll move on. The thing that people don't seem to understand is that you have to make that decision beforehand, because if you wait until adversity shows up and then start to have this conversation with yourself or internalize this dialogue, it's too late. So we're in there and this guy goes to hit the door, stops, and then they just stop the whole exercise. Like, you guys are all dead. That's what happens. You guys got stuck in the fatal funnel and you didn't make it. So this was the team that was before us. It wasn't us. It was the other team that had done it. My Sergeant Reed told me, he was like, after we went through it, we did everything perfectly. Not perfectly, but well to his standard, which is a very high standard. And we go to the wood line and he's smoking a cigarette, and he looks at me and he's like, "Hey, AJ." And I'm drinking out of my Camelback. He says, "You know what gets more men killed in combat than IEDs or bullets? Hesitation." And he says, "I would rather you be wrong and committed and pivot on the fly than just stand there and hope that you're going to figure it out." They call it stacking on a door when people stack, but he says, you stack firewood. You don't stack people on a door, because if you stack people on a door long enough to where you can actually stack, everybody's dead. It takes one grenade, it takes one IED, it takes one person with an AK-47 to kill everybody. He said, your goal is to flow. I would rather you be adaptable than perfectly precise. And that was the big lesson for me. I never forgot that.
No, I think that translates into the business world.
Oh my
God,
God,
it's indecision. Like, if you want to start the business, you're waiting to gather all the correct information to make a decision, and you shouldn't do that. You should have enough information to make a decision and move forward. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you could pivot as you go along.
Right.
You're going to make little mistakes here, little mistakes there, and then you just pivot, because when you are going forward and you might be making some mistakes, you're gathering information,
right,
in correcting your course all the time. And so indecision is what kills more men.
It kills dreams, it kills ambition, it kills relationships, because people hesitate to act. And when they hesitate like that, here's the other thing. We're talking about other stuff. Okay, in business, if you have a product and you're developing it, but you're not executing it fearlessly, if you're hesitating, somebody else can come into the market and own that environment. And now you're reacting instead of acting. Action is always more powerful than reaction. If I'm getting ready to defend myself, if I wait for that attacker to come at me and now I see that there's 3 of them and they all have guns or knives, I'm reacting at this point. If it is obvious that there's an imminent threat, my best action is to take action first and not wait. I would rather be judged after the fact than be carried in the casket in the process.
Yeah. I tell my kids, I'd rather get a phone call that your son beat the crap out of this guy or whatever than get the call. He's in the hospital and in a coma
Exactly.
or something like that. So indecision again. You got to make that decision. So, in a world that is changing real quick, the only guarantee you have is that you will fail. So don't be afraid to fail, because based on if you fail, you have another data point, and
Yep.
now you could correct. And so don't be indecisive. Just get it done. Jump in there. So I've built several businesses in several industries, and people go, "Well, how can you go from guns, ammo to natural oils to a window company to this and that?" And I'm like, I don't know. I know I could figure it out. I'm a problem solver. Above all, I look at myself and I'm a problem solver. Period. I look at stuff and I go, okay, how do I fix this? Again, going back to I focus on the solution, not the problem. Right? So, okay, how am I going to fix this? And that's how I go in there. And I'll figure it out as I go along. Like, here I am doing, essential oils. We're buying a new machine to do essential oils towelettes, and people go, well, how are you going to do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm figuring it out.
That's it. That's exactly it. The answer that you're facing is in the adversity that you're not facing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So nobody wants to do the work. It's like, oh, I wish I could do that. You can.
Yes.
You're just not committed enough to do it. There's one level of commitment, and that is total, period. There's no in between. If you want to call it burning the boats, if you want to call it, whatever it is, but that's how you have to be in this. So many people now have this wishy-washy idea. They have one foot outside the aircraft, so to speak. And because of that, they're stuck in limbo because they hesitate. And that's one of the best ways to end up a casualty in this life.
Yeah. So I guess the lesson on this point, guys, just jump in the pool and start figuring out how to swim, you know. So make the decision and go in there without too much hesitation, but understanding that you're going to make mistakes along the way, but the mistakes are not fatal mistakes.
Right.
Think about this. Like I tell my kids when they're going to make a decision, I said, there's two things you got to think about this. I said, are you committing a mortal sin? Are you offending God? Nope. Okay, great. Are you in mortal danger? Nope. Okay, then go ahead.
Yep.
Because they're not fatal. You could recoup.
That's it.
You could recover from any of those mistakes. So we encourage you to take your chances, obviously calculated. Look at the decisions you're going to make. Look at the pros and cons. And then if you're going to work out, you just go in there and do it. If it's not a fatal mistake, then go ahead and try it.
Agree.
So that's cool, man. All right, so you seem like a guy who has a very strong mindset. Who that's what I think was the appeals to me. Manly man like manly man. I think we're freaking two B's. It's one of the things that attracted me to Andy Frisella and Ed. It's a very manly man, very strong-willed, very strong mindset, very strong principles, committed, and all that stuff. So, what is your mindset? What are your beliefs? What are the things that help you get through adversity and things like that?
Yeah, I guess my mindset is a little bit of what we've been talking about. I do see adversity as a gift, as an opportunity.
And I think that's huge, buddy. That's just like huge. That's like 80%, the 80-20 rule.
That's what it is, and that's why I named the book that, because just like we're saying, there may be somebody who says, hey, I bought your book and I loved it. And if they were skimming the book, they probably didn't get a whole lot out of it. But if they did at least read the book and they saw me mention adversity over and over again, and they saw the cover of the book over and over again, if that's all they get, that's still a hell of a lot. That still can serve them for the rest of their life. They can still give that to somebody for the rest of their life. That's powerful. But to me, I guess my mindset, a lot of it is based on what should I be doing now that I'm not doing? What should I be applying myself towards that I'm not doing? And I'm not saying that in like a fearful way, but I'm saying it in, I want to accomplish certain things in my life. I want to create certain expectations for my family, things that I want to be able to do. I remember Ed made this great point at the syndicate event that you spoke at when you were on stage, and you did amazing up there. There was something that he said. He said, when you make a certain amount of money, people don't push you or your family around. And that really stuck with me because just like you were saying, both of our fathers were hardworking blue collar guys, and they both wanted us to succeed without having to do what they were doing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, being in a position where, how good does it feel to be able to tell your wife, hey, if you need something, go get it. Money is not an option. Not that you should spend your money frivolously, but to say, listen, we need to go get another car because this one broke down or it's unreliable. Then we go get another car. We don't say, oh, well, I don't have enough money for this or doing that. And it's not, and we're not saying this I'm not showing off, but what I'm saying is it's amazing how much money can dictate your choices in life if you allow it to. And by doing that, you are staying safe, you're staying mediocre, and you're not putting yourself in a position to be able to succeed in any area of life, frankly. So that's kind of the way I look at it, where my goal is to serve as many people as I possibly can with my message, to help as many people that are willing to do the work. But also in the process of doing that, I'm also wanting to make sure that I'm still trying to fulfill myself, still trying to grow as a person and as a coach, as a sifu, as a teacher, sensei, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that's the
Well,
way
I think that
it.
you have a very strong mindset, just like I think I do. I mean, for me, there's no impossibles.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's like my wife would say, she's my biggest cheerleader, and sometimes to my detriment,
Mm-hmm.
because if I said I'm going to do this, she's like, okay, and I said, what do you think? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, but I want some pushback, okay? I want someone to go, hey, dude, you're crazy, man. What are you going to do this? I mean,
Yes.
you're 50-some years old, and you started a brand new business, and you're investing over $1 million on this business because blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, you're fine. She goes,
Yep.
I know you'll do it.
That's it.
And so to me, my mindset is like bulletproof. I trust my
Yes.
skills. I believe that God, if I'm doing the right thing, God is going to help me. And
Mhm.
it's just a matter of time again,
Yep.
So for me, believing in myself, that I built those skills. I had to build the skills.
Right.
My mindset wasn't this strong all along, but if you think about having a strong mind by default or by force, having sometimes 15 people in the household eating 3 times a day, and you're the breadwinner. There's
Yeah.
not many options for.
Yeah, you have to succeed. You have no other choice.
Exactly. There's no. I mean, there's not even plan A or B. There's just no. You got to do it. Period. No,
Yeah.
no matter what. And so, having a strong mindset, and I wasn't cocky or anything like that, but I knew that I could figure it out. I go back to, some of you guys that are building businesses. Get the mindset of a problem solver.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think about yourself like, oh, I'm the CEO. I'm this. Just you're a problem solver. You're solving this puzzle. How do you solve this? And I think that when you take that approach, you could figure anything. Especially those guys that are in the syndicate. We have this Facebook group. If you have a question, ask the group, and they're going to give you the answer
Mm-hmm.
without any, charge or anything like that. And so, if you don't know, ask. But again, figuring things out is my strongest suit, because I look at myself as a problem solver. I don't see myself as a businessman or anything like that. It's just, I got to solve the problem, and this is how we do it.
Yep.
So, strong mindsets are built based on you stacking up on new skills.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But you have to put the work and the effort into building those skills.
That's it. And there has to be a driving purpose behind that skill set.
Yes.
Like you have to, again, like you said, adversity offers us no other choice. And when there's no other choice, the choice is simple. So for you, when you have 45 meals being eaten in your house every day, you don't have the luxury of saying, I don't feel like getting up. I'm going to just hit snooze.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You don't have that choice. Even if you wanted to, that's not an option for you. So what is the option? Well, okay, to go out and hunt something and drag it back to the cave. There you go. How can I better do this? Oh, well, I see that I can solve problems. If you have that skill set, you can be in any industry and crush it, because you already know what it takes to get there. That's what people don't seem to realize. You have to have that deep burning purpose behind it, because when you face adversity, if you don't really believe in it, in what you're doing, or you don't want it so bad that you're going to face it, then you're just going to quit, which, don't feel bad, 99% of the rest of the world does that too. But for the other 1% of us that are still in this place where we want to do this and we're willing to do the work, there's endless possibilities.
Yeah. It's funny, we're in the conference room having this conversation, and the heater just kicked in. So I hope that you guys hear a background noise is the heater, but it brings me back to when we were building our first business, and I quit my job, and I'm laying on my bed worrying about, how, it's the end of the month, I got to pay the private school and all sorts of things, and I hear the heater go on, fired up, and I'm going, oh, burning money.
That's cost money.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to cost money. How are we going to do this? But we always manage to do that, I think God's being very gracious to us, very kind. But, it's a relationship that you have with, the relationship that I have with God is a very father-son-like relationship. So I look at my children the way I think God looks at me. Like, I see my children and, my twins with Down syndrome, they don't ask for anything. They assume that there's going to be a plate of food when they're hungry. They assume that there's going to be this or that or whatever when they need it. And it took me a while because I'm a control freak. And it took me a while to realize that there's some things that I just got to let go and give it to God. Like a fine example of that, a very real example was when we didn't know our twins had Down syndrome. So when my wife had her C-section, they took the babies out and they were just there. They were not moving like, normal babies. They're kicking and stuff because the babies with Down syndrome have a low density muscle tone. So they're like flat. They're like laying down like a dead.
Like a rag doll or something.
Yeah, something like that. It's like a frog. He's just laying there. And I remember the doctor was Hindu, and his accent, he goes, I think they have Down syndrome. What do you think? And I go, I think they're fine. And he goes, yeah, but they have Down syndrome, I think. And I go, but that's fine. And he, what do you want me to do? So all of a sudden, everything started hitting me. Adversity started bitch slapping me and punching me in the back of the neck as well, not only on the cheeks and everywhere. I felt like I was getting my ass kicked. And there's my wife. She just had C-section, twins. I can't tell her anything, and I'm holding things back. Babies are premature. One is 3 pounds. The other one is 4 pounds. Oh, my goodness. They got to take him to the NICU and do all sorts of things. So a lot of stuff hitting me at once or whatever. And when finally things settled down about 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever, Dora was stable and I could go home and sleep. I'm driving and I'm getting bombarded by, what are you going to do? What is Down syndrome? Are they going to be okay? Are they going to be able to walk? Are they going to be able to talk? And it's driving me nuts. And then I go, okay, relax, Miguel. I said, God's got you. And I said, God, you send him to me. Yeah, I know you got me. And all of a sudden, I really felt this peace. And I was able to turn on the radio and listen to music. I was so appeased, like, okay, I'm gonna be normal. This is what I do in the car. You turn on the radio, whatever. But it was such a great thing for me. And, adversity hit me. He punched me in the back of the neck and in front or whatever. But I was able to go, okay, hold on a second. Do you really believe? People talk about faith. And when things like this happen is when you prove your faith. If I was going to complain and bitch about, well, why'd you send them to the kids this way or whatever, and I'd be bitter and angry and I think God would, as a father, if one of my kids kept complaining to me and I'm like, dude, I got you, don't worry about it. Well, what am I going to eat? Am I going to get shoes and I'm going to do this or whatever? And I would just say, you basically shut up, man. I got you. And so I look at God the same way. Anyway, but it's interesting. It helps with adversity when you have the creator of the world on your side. So, I talked about having the kids and driving home, and there was a lot of fear in my heart. A lot of fear, and fear of the unknown.
Yes.
And one of the things that I learned it was probably the second summit, the syndicate, Bedros Keuilian, I probably butchered his name, but anyway, you guys know who it is.
Yeah, Bedros, amazing.
He talked about fear. And, he's talking to a 57, 58-year-old man, and it's like, I got into many fights. I've been through shit. And he's talking about fear. And he goes, I'm going to teach you about, what fear is. And I'm going, you don't fucking know what fear is, dude. So anyway, so he said, he goes, fear lives in your mind because it's not real, because you're bringing experiences from the past that bring fear, or you're looking at the future event and you're thinking about it and you go, oh, this might happen. And so that's why fear gets introduced to you. So when he said that, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm a warrior because I'm feeding my family. I got to do this. And I'm always worried about the future and how you're going to do that. So I changed from that day on. I'm like, as long as I do the work right now,
yes,
I'm not going to fear the future.
That's exactly it.
And whenever I feel fear, I look at the past and I'm going, okay, where is it coming from? Is it coming from my past? From my experience that I had? Oh, yes. Okay, well, I'm going to look at the experience. And I look at that experience and go, okay, yes, this happened or that happened. I got my butt kicked or whatever. What did I learn? And then I'll bring the positive back into the present right now. So what do you think about fear? How do you handle fear? How do you see it?
That's the thing. A lot of the fear that we have, again, is false. It's something that it's a lie that we corroborate in our mind. We believe it to be true. There's a great story. I talk about it in my book, but it's about Mike Tyson. And he was, for those of you that don't know, at one time he was the most devastating heavyweight champion in the world. Yeah. And his trainer was named Cus D'Amato. And Mike Tyson literally had to be corralled out of his dressing room as an amateur. Like, he was in the dressing room crying, didn't want to go on the ring, didn't want to fight, didn't want to go. And Cus D'Amato says the worst thing in the world is to see a warrior defeated by his own mind and not his opponent. So he knew that fear was going to overwhelm certain fighters. And he told Mike Tyson this story called The Hero and the Coward. And he says, the difference between the hero and the coward is not what they feel. They both feel the same thing. They both feel fear, but it's what they do with it that makes them different. The hero lets the fear hit him, but then he channels it into something that's positive and uses it to project onto his opponent, and then uses it to become victorious. The coward lets the fear just keep him stuck and makes him hesitate. And in that hesitation is whenever he's defeated. So it's the same thing. Fear is what you do with it. For me, for a long time, fear is what drove me whenever I was paralyzed, because I didn't know what was going to happen next. But again, when you realize that fear is a form of adversity where it's trying to get your attention and say, listen, this is a potential thing over here, but it's like you and I being afraid of a tornado. We're aware that there's a potential of it when there is, but we have an action to take. Okay, we're going to go down to the basement if there's a tornado. We live in Tornado Alley, for those of you that don't know. But the thing is, you can't live your life in fear. You can't let that stifle your existence. You can't say, well, I would go up and spend time with Miguel, but what if there's a tornado? Well, it's in the wintertime. I mean, that never really happens. Well, what about the bad weather? Well, what about the roads? No. If you constantly look for an excuse, you will always find one. But if you constantly look for a way, driven by purpose, you will always find one for those two.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I like your quote about nothing breeds confidence like preparation.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Before I drove up, I have everything right. If I break down, I'm fine. I've got spare tires. I've got stuff to keep me warm. I got food. I'm ready.
So that the preparation takes a lot of the fear out.
It absolutely does. If you're prepared before you step in the cage, at the end, right before you step in, you're like, you know what? I've done everything that I possibly can. It's all out there now. So if I get beat by this guy, he's better than I am. He deserves to win. But I've done everything in my power to make sure that I win. Cus D'Amato says, you have to demand from fate the victory. Because if you don't work harder for it in the leading up to it, you will always wonder right before you get in the ring, did I do enough? Did I do enough road work? I wonder if my technique's good enough. It's too late, guys. Sorry. You should have already been doing that shit a long time ago, which is where the preparation builds the confidence.
Yeah. I had a question here that I think we sort of answer it with fear because it's about preparation, but how do you handle stress or difficult situations?
With the stress, a lot of times I just detach from it as much as I can because I know that stress will not allow me to operate at my highest level, especially when I need it the most. So we were doing martial arts stuff earlier, right? Mm-hmm. If a guy pulls a knife on me now, I can't get stressed about it. That's going to slow me down. That causes me to hesitate. I just understand that the stress is something that's forcing me to take action. So again, if we're working on the business and we know that we have to feed those people, we're going to use that stress to drive us in a positive manner. When I interviewed Ed Milet, he says that he likes stress because he says that it's something that he channels to take him to a higher level. And of course, there's too much of it, obviously. Anything in excess becomes its opposite. So too much of anything becomes bad. If you sleep all the time, it eventually becomes a coma. If you work too hard all the time, you eventually get burned out. But the understanding is that stress is there to make you take action. It's when you feel stress and then do nothing that causes anxiety, and that's when people become crippled. That's when the hesitation happens, and that's when they live this life of mediocrity. And then all of a sudden they look up and it's like, wow, I'm 50 years old. Where did the time go? Where did all those people go? Where did all those opportunities go? Mm-hmm. We think that we will always have the time. We think we will always have the opportunity. And the reality is we will have neither if we don't take action.
Yeah. So I had in my notes that, it's preparation too. I mean, you won't have, the stress won't be as much or as harsh if you're prepared, right?
That's it.
So that's just the thing. And also for me is I can handle a lot of stress because I'm focusing on the solution, not the problem.
Right.
So you guys need to take the time to go, okay, let's just discern this thing. Let's just figure this out. And see, energy flows one way. And when you are in a stressful situation or a difficult situation or whatever, if you're focusing on the problem, all the energy is going to the problem and nothing to the solution.
Yep.
So you need to move it over to the focusing on the problem, and so you have less energy. Fixing the problem, you have less energy going to focusing on the problem. Like in business, people go, well, who made that mistake? Or, well, they're barking, they're focused on the problem. It's like, no, dude, focus on the solution. This is interesting because, again, I'm learning about myself. Because I got a lot of experience, and sometimes I don't know what I know. But I remember when my wife and I got married, we had our second daughter, Christina, and it was Christmas Eve, and she had a high fever, and she started convulsing. And it's like, 11 o'clock at night or whatever. And my wife started crying. And I'm like, what the hell? It's like, let's call 911 and get an ambulance here. And this. And then my wife is crying, and she's crying. And so after we went to the hospital, they put her in an ice bath, and we were able to take her home the same evening and all sorts of things. I had a conversation with her. I said, baby, were you helping our daughter by crying? By focusing? I said, you were focusing on the problem, not the solution. And so little by little, I started, working with her and coaching her. She's very coachable. She's just an amazing woman. And now she's like, this happens, she's on, okay, let's focus on the solution. And it's a skill that if you guys really try to hone in on that, it's going to help you a lot in every aspect of your life.